Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a very exciting video. I am sharing with you my top tips, tricks, whatever you want to call them, for growing your Poshmark closet, growing your business, your reselling business obviously, and just making more profit overall, because obviously the bottom line is the goal. So let's jump right into it. I personally have been full-time reseller for almost 2 years now. It will be 2 years May 1st, so I guess more of like a year and a half. But I actually only started using Poshmark last spring. I want to say February, March is when I really got into it. At first, I was very hesitant because of the high fees. If you guys don't know, Poshmark takes 20%, which is a lot, but they have millions and millions of users. So for me, I felt like I was missing out on new customers and exposure by solely selling through my Shopify website and on Instagram and stuff like that. So that's why I made the decision to start. And I don't think the fee is such a scary thing when you know how to price your items. You can price up a little bit, leave room for that 20% that Poshmark is taking, and still leave room for customers to make offers. So let's jump right into it. If you guys see me looking at my phone, I have notes here for you guys. So I'm going to start with inventory, because that's kind of where you have to start. So people who are just starting out, obviously everyone is at a different point in their reselling journey. If you are more advanced, you probably would skip this step, but if you're newer, I think the best way to start is to sell your old clothes, sell things you already have around the house. As long as they're somewhat desirable, you can easily do research on that, which again I will talk about, and sell for your family and friends. You know, work with what you have and get started from there, so you can start seeing some progress and getting some followers on Poshmark, things like that. And also, you obviously don't have to pay for that inventory unless you want to give your friends and family a cut once things sell. Definitely a good place to start. And then once you start sourcing, I think I could make a whole video about sourcing and places to source, strategies, and mixing it up and stuff like that. For the sake of keeping this video condensed, we're just gonna touch on the basics. So for sourcing, obviously many different options. Me personally, I live in New York City and I love thrifting, so I source a lot at different thrift stores around the city, buy sell trade stores. Those are my top. And then occasionally I will source online. I will go to consignment shops, and I will, once in a while cross state lines. But for the most part, I know what works for me, and you need to kind of figure out what works for you, what stores are the best near you, etc. But there's a lot of options. Another point I wanted to mention about inventory and getting new things, you want to kind of pick what kind of business model you're going to follow as a reseller. Some people go for lower ASP, which is average sales price. I'll put all the little terms right here for you guys. Some people do lower average sales price, but they try to get a larger quantity of items out the door quicker. So that's more of like a quantity game, whereas the model I kind of follow, I'm somewhere in the middle, but I try to slowly increase my ASP and focus on quality items versus quantity. Even if that means sometimes paying up for items. If I can spend $30 on an item and make back $150, I'd rather do that any day than spend $7.99 on an item and get back $25. So it's just something to consider. Obviously, you need to figure out, like I said, what works for you based on the resources you have available. But definitely something to consider and reevaluate as you continue to go down your journey. Another key I wanted to mention, because a lot of people, I feel like when you're new, you don't really realize, you kind of just go shopping and you pick things up willy-nilly, things that look cute, things that you like, but you need to run comps. This is just comparable sales prices of an item. So what did it retail for? What is it selling for right now? Is there a lot on the market? Is it oversaturated? All good things to know. So running comps is probably one of my top 2 or 3 tips. You need to do the research. So after you're done shopping, I like to just take all my stuff, shamelessly sit down in the corner of the store and look everything up to the best of my ability. Obviously, there's some pieces that you won't be able to find online. You need to use your best judgment, but usually newer styles, bigger brands, stuff like Madewell, what's behind me, let me think. Madewell, Free People, Stella McCartney, like all of these brands, you can find the items online as long as there's a tag and there's a style number. It might take some time and some practice to get good at it. Again, I can touch on that in a later video if you guys are interested. Definitely run your comps, check what the market's looking like for that specific item. So available versus sold. If you have an item that resells decently well, but let's say it's a made well piece and you might only sell it for 40 or 50 bucks and it's 10 to buy, but there is 20 of the same item on Poshmark in the same size and it's the size that you picked up, maybe not the best idea. But again, use your judgment. Cost of goods is another thing. We call it COGS. I call it COGS because I went to business school, but something to consider. You want to keep your cost of goods as low as possible. That's what most people say, but also you want to make sure that you're getting that return. Like I said, I would rather pay up for an item that I know is going to bring me in a large amount of money than just spending willy-nilly on items that are not worth my time, because you need to consider, obviously your time is valuable, especially as a reseller, an entrepreneur, whatever. Time is the one thing that you cannot get back. So another thing to definitely keep in mind. Another thing when we're talking about research is overall brand research. So this kind of comes as you go, you know, there's ways of doing research and seeing what's selling, what's hot. I like to learn from other resellers, just do some research and see what's selling on Poshmark. You could even look on eBay. You could literally go to retail stores and see what trends are coming up, what are they putting out for the next season on the shelves. So definitely doing your research is something that's important, and you need to kind of enjoy it and love the process to do this full time. So you need to like clothes, you need to like fashion, but definitely have to do your research on brands, different styles, what's in, what's not in anymore. For example, skinny jeans are so out the window. They were out for me a long time ago. Now I'm much more cautious when I'm picking up skinny jeans. You know, they could be a good size, they could be a good brand, but if they're not gonna move, then it's not worth my time or my money to buy them, take them home, clean them, photograph them. That is kind of a big umbrella for inventory and sourcing your items. Next, let's move on to photos. This is something that is tricky, but I actually have a really good nugget of information for you guys. At first, I didn't know what I was doing either. You can see right here, I use a nice white backdrop. I've used that for a while before I got, you know, kind of professional with it. I would literally use a white blanket. So there's no shame in where you start. Feel free to do whatever you have to get started. Use, again, what's at your disposal. An app that I love is called Photo Room. Put it right here. I used to use Photoshop. I used to have my roommate help me, and then I kind of learned, but it takes so much time to Photoshop just one piece. It's a waste of time. I just don't recommend it. Photo Room makes it so easy. You can use the free version. There's a little watermark at the bottom. I think you can probably like crop that out somehow, but I just paid for the app for the year. I want to say it's like $30 for the year, which isn't that bad considering I use it every day. It basically just crops out the background. So you can make it clean white, you can make a pattern in the background, whatever you want, you can do it on Photo Room. I like to do the clean white for the full frontal view and then full of the back. And then the other photos I leave as is because there's no need to kind of Photoshop every single one. It's mostly for aesthetics. I'll show you guys an example here of something that I used on Photo Room or how I do it. I'll pop a little thing on the side. So that's my number one for photos. Number two is obviously lighting and a backdrop. 2 and 3, I guess. Like I said, I use a white backdrop. Use whatever you have at hand. Some people just use a blank wall and they put a hook on the wall. That works just fine as well. As for lighting, you definitely want to get natural light if you can. I know sometimes it's hard. You can't always like change where you're living or where you're working. When all else fails, get some professional lights. I use a ring light. I'm using it right now. I use it for everything. I use it for my photos as well. I know some friends who use one of the box lights, either a small one or a big one. You can get those if you have the space. Those are really great. You can get studio lights, so many options. Just kind of do a little bit of research, maybe go to your local photo store, and also consider how much space you have in your area. I like my ring light because it is compact, and if I needed to, I can like break it down and put it away. And then last thing for photos, I'm going to talk about stock images. I know that people have problems on eBay, on Mercari. If you use stock images, they will shut your shit down, which we obviously don't want that to happen. I do personally use stock images. On Poshmark, most people don't have an issue. I've never gotten a warning. I know people who do this full time and have been doing it for years and they don't have a problem. But again, do it at your own risk because some of the brands I know revolve, like you can't save their images from their website as a JPEG, so you have to kind of get creative, but it's technically copyright, photo issues, so be mindful of that, definitely. And if you ever get a warning, I would take it seriously and, you know, see what you can do to mitigate that. Now let's talk about listing because that is the next step. So this, again, is something you kind of learn over time. how you want your descriptions and your listing to look, what type of copy do you want to use, etc. But for me, I've come to have a little process that works well. I'll show you guys an example of one of my Poshmark captions right here. But basically, you want to, like I said, create a process, but really focus on keywords. What are people searching for? What is trending right now? And how does your item apply to that? Let me give you guys a little example. We'll do it together right now. Let's take this Stella McCartney sweater, for example. I just got this. Ooh, let it focus. And I just photographed it today, so I'll actually be listing it later. What I like to do is look up the item and see the same item and what it's sold for in the past, and then sort from high to low, who sold it for the most money, and what really nice juicy keywords did they use. So for this sweater, for example, I would find the name of it, like the stock name, and while I was describing it, I would use the words thick, ribbed, because it's like a ribbed texture, knit, asymmetrical, because it has kind of an asymmetric hem with, you know, the seam down the middle. I would mention the color, I would mention the size. You definitely want to mention any flaws. And for me, personally, a really big part of my listings are measurements. A lot of people don't like to do measurements. It is tedious, but if there is, let's say this sweater is for sale. I have it for sale and I have all the details and all the measurements already listed. Someone else has it for sale, but they don't have measurements. They say measurements upon request. They're gonna buy your item because they don't wanna take the time to ask the buyer and then wait for them to get back to them regarding the measurements. So you wanna put yourself ahead, and measurements definitely do that, keywords definitely do that. You can do a little bit of research, see, you know, similar items that have sold for a lot, like I said, and just pick out the keywords and kind of slowly learn which ones work for you and what you can apply to each item, if that makes sense. You also want to, if you don't have the best lighting, I would consider, you know, either using a preset. You don't want it to be too edited because sometimes that can take away from the actual item. But if you need to, you know, increase the brightness, increase the clarity of the photo, just so that overall the aesthetic is there, because it's very important. The first thing that people see, obviously, when they're looking at your closet or looking at your items is not just the photos, but the first photo. So you want to make sure everything looks clean, nice and sharp, and just amazing for your customers. Next, once people buy your items, let's talk about shipping. So for me personally, I do use custom mailers. Well, they're not custom, they're just like the pink poly mailers. I also use the free USPS boxes. So those are really nice because all of Poshmark's orders ship priority, so you can use any of the USPS boxes for free. I will show you guys. I'll insert like a little clip here of me going on the website. You just order them to your house. It's really fun because you get to click add to cart and purchase, but it's $0. And when do you get to buy anything that's free? I use a number 7 box when it's kind of a bigger item or they're bundling stuff. And I also really like the shoe boxes because obviously they're the perfect size for shoes, but they're also just a smaller size when you have like maybe only 1 or 2 items or a sweater. They fit in there perfect. I also do include some personalized kind of marketing materials. I'll actually show you guys. So for me, I use these personalized mailer cards and also stickers. Obviously, this is something, here's the back, it's so cute. This is something extra that you definitely don't need to do in the beginning. I do it because I've been doing this for a while. My business is my full-time income, and you know, I definitely plan on continuing to grow it and taking it as far as I can the next few years. So these are important to me, just kind of giving a little something to the customer. I will write notes on here. I will give them little coupons if they go order from my website for the first time, since you're not technically supposed to like solicit on the Poshmark app and send them to your Instagram or whatever. I just write them a little note, and I think it just makes them feel all warm and fuzzy. If you get a little note in the mail with your package, you're gonna be happy too. So something to think about, but not necessary in the beginning. When I'm wrapping items, I like to tissue paper them. I know some people do separate bags as well. I like to reduce the plastic waste, but I do like to make sure that things are protected, especially more expensive pieces. So again, something to keep in mind. And then let's talk about my final thoughts and tips. I think the biggest thing I've done to help myself grow is learning from other resellers, and there are so many ways to do that. There's a bunch of YouTubers that I like. I can leave a few down below for you to check out their content and their channel. You can follow them on Instagram, but you can also just do so much research on your own. Don't underestimate the power of the goggle, okay, you guys? Go to Google, go to different brands that you like, go to their websites, go to, you know, Powerhouse, like Revolve, these websites and companies that sell a bunch of different brands, even Nordstrom, and see what's going quick, what they're having to restock. Go to Poshmark, look at other people's Poshmark closet. You can sort by sold and then just in and see what recently sold. I do that every day. It is so fun for me to see what other people are selling, what's getting out the door quick, stuff like that. Comps. I know I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again because it is so important. You need to run comps. You need to know what you're buying so that you can sell it confidently. Work smarter, not harder. That's what I'm saying. So again, with the comps, yeah, it takes an extra few minutes in the store, but you prevent yourself from bringing a bunch of stuff home that will just sit, maybe not sell, might not bring you a great profit, etc. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is knowing when to pay up. Now, this goes along with kind of doing your research and knowing what things are selling for. Sometimes it's a little bit of intuition as well, based on the season, again, styles, brands, and stuff like that. I will show you guys an example on the screen right here. About 2 weeks ago, I bought this All Saints coat from Goodwill downtown in Manhattan. Now, it was expensive. This might have been the most expensive item I've ever bought from a Goodwill. It was $99.99. That is literally $100 hairs. That is a Benjamin, okay? I was definitely skeptical. I ran my comps. I can include also a little example of how I do that right here. I ran my comps and I saw that one had sold only a few weeks prior for I think like $250, let's say. This one was in perfect condition, and I like to have a little bit of confidence when I'm doing my listings and think that by now I know something. So I figured, okay, I will write the listing really well, include a lot of juicy keywords, and get some really good photos, and I can probably sell it for a little bit more if I wait for the right buyer. That happened, and I sold it within 2 weeks for I think $325. I got $260 as profit, so that nets me $160 for that one item. A lot better than buying a $5 shirt that's gonna sell for $10. So just something to be wary of. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to talk more about any of these topics in a future video, and make sure you are following all of our socials so you can come along on the journey. I thrift almost every day, and I'm always bringing you guys along on the gram just for fun. But thanks for watching. I will talk to you guys later.